Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Rukmini Dwakadish Rukmini Dwakadish Rukmini Dwakadish Rukmini Dwakadish Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Varavijacharya Sutarata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Sutarata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisaranta Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananti Kori Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Zagaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shamakun Radhakun. Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Brihat Mridanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Gauda Premananda Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Vishnu Dalai Shri Mani Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatodayam Ujjirayat Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lagaita Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Sigurum Dina Taranam Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 20, text number 32. Hāsam, harer, avanatākhila-loka-tīvra, śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam, atyudāram, sammohanāya, racitam, nija-māyayā, nija-māyayāsya bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya hāsam harer avanatākhila-loka-tīvra śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam. What's that? Yeah. śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram. Thank you. sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāsya bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya hāsam harer avanatākhila-loka-tīvra śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāsya bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya hāsam harer avanatākhila-loka-tīvra śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāsya bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya harer avanatākhila-loka-tīvra śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāya bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya hāsam harer avanatākhila-loka-tīvra śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāsya bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya. Mataji. hāsam harer avanatākhila-loka-tīvra. śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram. sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāsya. bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya. tīvra śokāśru-sāgara-viśoṣaṇam atyudāram. sammohanāya racitam nija-māyayāsya. bhrū-maṇḍalam muni-kṛte makara-dhvajasya. hāsam, the smile, harer of Lord Śrī Hari. Avanata, bowed. Akhila, all. Loka, for persons. tīvra-śoka, caused by intense grief. aśru-sāgara, the ocean of tears. viśoṣaṇam, drying up. ati-udāram, most benevolent. sammohanāya, for charming. racitam, manifested. nija-māyayā, by his internal potency. asya, his. bhrū-maṇḍalam, arched eyebrows. muni-kṛte, for the good of the sages. makara-dhvajasya, of the sex god. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. A yogi should similarly meditate on the most benevolent smile of Lord Śrī Hari, a smile which, for all those who bow to him, drives away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrows, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god for the good of the sages. Purport. The entire universe is full of miseries, and therefore the inhabitants of this material universe are always shedding tears out of intense grief. There is a great ocean of water made from such tears, but for one who surrenders under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ocean of tears is at once dried up. One need only see the charming smile of the Supreme Lord. In other words, the bereavement of material existence immediately subsides when one sees the charming smile of the Lord. It is stated in this verse that the charming eyebrows of the Lord are so fascinating that they cause one to forget the charms of sense attraction. The conditioned souls are shackled to material existence because they are captivated by the charms of sense gratification, especially sex life. The sex god is called makara-dhvajasya. The charming brows of the Supreme Personality of Godhead protect the sages and devotees from being charmed by material lust and sex attraction. Yamuna-acharya, a great acharya, said that ever since he had seen the charming pastimes of the Lord, the charms of sex life had become abominable for him, and the mere thought of sex enjoyment would cause him to spit and turn his face. Thus, if anyone wants to be aloof from sex attraction, he must see the charming smile and fascinating eyebrows of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana-shlakaya Chakshu-umilitam Jena Tasmai Śrī Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Vanchakalpa Trubhyasya Kripa Sindhavayvata Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So herein, we've been reading for the last week or so, not longer, about the different aspects of the bodily feature of the personality of Godhead, and how the Supreme Personality of Godhead affects one's distress, or mitigates the distress of the living entity. We see how Prabhupada is saying in his purports how the yogi should fix his mind on the eternal form of the Lord. He should fix his mind on each individual limb of the Lord also, and scrutinizingly study all the different parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It kind of amazed me reading these verses of the Bhagavatam. It was kind of amazing to me how the sages that were able to meditate, and in that meditation they could see the form of the Lord. They actually could see Krishna there, and the form of the Lord was right there. And not only did they see the form of the Lord, but they could actually scrutinizingly see each part of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this was done simply by meditation. I'm not a very visionary person, but for me that's insurmountable. I can't even understand that point. I'm not sure if any of you have a better vision ability, but I can say honestly that I don't have that kind of vision. I can barely vision the most simplest of things. But to see the qualification of these great souls, these great yogis, how powerful they were, that they were able to see the Lord in their vision and meditate on Him on each different part of the body. So we see that today, people, they don't even understand what the purpose of a deity is, the Archa Vigraha form of the Supreme Lord. They have they can't even comprehend what it is and why we do it. And sometimes there's people that say, well, God is everywhere, but He's not in a temple. There's talk like that. And we see that they need some instruction. They need information. They need knowledge. That's the difference. We're very fortunate because we've come in contact with the Krishna conscious movement, and therefore we have some information about the personality of Godhead. Therefore, we're very lucky, and especially that we came in contact with an acharya like Srila Prabhupada. It's described, Atram Purusho Veda. In order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this age of Kali Yuga, it's described that one has to come in contact or know a person who knows the Shastra and who lives according to the Shastra. Both are there. They know the Shastra and they live it. And that's the difference. And we see that Srila Prabhupada, he was that personality. He knew the Shastra and he lived it. And now we're getting the opportunity to read and study and realize his ecstatic purports that he gives us in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we see that the purpose of all this is actually to achieve favor of Krishna. That's why we worship Krishna. We worship Him because we want His favor. We want Him to like us, to bless us. So that's also there. Tad tam Om Tad Vishnu. Yes, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam. That we want the favor. And we get that favor by the instruction of the spiritual master, the acharya, the guru. He gives us that understanding, how to achieve that favor, because we want that. Just like here, it tells us that if one gets to sees the smile of the Lord, that favor that we get from him is that he drives away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. In order to get that, you have to have the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then the next thing is the goal. There's an aim, and then there's a goal. The goal is to know Krishna. Yes, nate vidu svartakatim hi Vishnum. To know him, to understand what Krishna is about. And that's what we get from the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, through the purports of the pure devotee of the Lord, one who actually knows and acts according to Shastra. So in Shastra it's described here that if you just focus on the smile of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it dries up the ocean of tears. And when I was reading that, it just kind of, I was reflecting on the condition of the world today. Just like here in Los Angeles, we just saw horrific fires. Horrific, just devastation. And what to speak of a tsunami, if you've ever seen what the tsunamis do. It's devastation. Everything is completely gone. Just like the people here in the Palisades and different areas, they lived in that home for 40 years, 50 years. They had everything. Everything they owned was in that particular house. The children grew up there. The grandchildren came. And every possession they had, it was gone. And they simply ran away with their shirt on their back, and that was practically it. That's devastation. We can only imagine what that is. In fact, I recall when watching it, what was going on, I was thinking, what would we do? What if the fire came so far and just devastated this temple and all the buildings here? What would we do? How would we feel? What would that mean? So herein it says that one has to learn how to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how to get the favor of the Supreme Lord, and how to try to understand Him, because that particular position can happen at any moment, at any time in our life. What to speak of having to die? We have to die. You can't live forever. That day will come when we'll actually we'll leave this body, we'll leave this material world. And that's devastation. Everything you have, everything you've known, it's gone. So what's the future? What's the next step? What's the future for that living entity? So that's why we have to approach great souls like Srila Prabhupada. And from that we get the information, what it is in the next life. And if something happens that's devastating, how to properly deal with it, how to properly understand it. And this is going on constantly in the material world. It's confirmed. We can just see what happened here. So we have to accept the form of the Lord as confirmed by the Shastra. That's important. The scripture, the Shastra. In fact, it's described that sadhu shastra guru vaikya tinite guru vaikya. That in order to understand Krishna or the Shastra, we have to go to the spiritual master, to the guru. And I think that it's significant in this particular pastime because how do we know what Krishna wants, or how do we know what Krishna looks like if we don't get it from the acharya, from the spiritual master? So it's described that in order to understand Shastra or Krishna, it takes Guru, Shastra, right, and the spiritual master. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to understand the Bhagavatam. The Guru, Shastra, and the Spirit. Sadhu, yeah, Guru. You can, Prabhupada says Guru, Shastra. You know, he does say that. Sadhu, or spiritual master. Prabhupada gives the example of like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was traveling in South India, he came across the Brahma Samhita, handwritten Brahma Samhita. And he took that Brahma Samhita and then he gave it to the devotees. So, sadhu or guru, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played the part of a sadhu. As a sadhu, he got the Brahma Samhita, which is Shastra, and then he gave it to the devotees. Right? So, we're also recipients of that, because Srila Prabhupada received that information from his guru. And this is called the parampara. This is how you receive the information, and which is accurate, which is real. And so we see that Lord Chaitanya did that. And Prabhupada is a pure devotee, an acharya. And now he's giving us Krishna. So even in the Bhagavatam, it's described that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was incarnation. Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishna Sango Pangan Samparsadam Yagnai Sankirtam Pranaya Yajanti Hi Sumeda Saha. In the Bhagavatam it's described that those persons who are intelligent, very intelligent people, those persons will congregationally chant the holy name of the Lord in glorification of the incarnation of the holy name of the Lord in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is how we get information in terms of the position of the Supreme Lord and what it means to be in Krishna consciousness. And herein, we're reading also that the fascination of sex life, the attraction for sense gratification, it's very powerful, very, very powerful. And we can overcome that attraction by the mercy of the spiritual master, only by that mercy. Bhogaishvarya prashaktanam te apreta chetasam vyasya mikabudi samaro na vidhiyate. It's described that, in the minds of those who are too much attached to sense gratification, the resolute determination of devotional service does not take place. So we have to be very conscientious in the execution of our service to Krishna, that we actually don't become overwhelmed with sense gratification. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Without that understanding, Krishna consciousness is very difficult. We'll be reading here also about, we read about Kardama Muni, a great saint, soul, very powerful, great Muni. But at a particular point, he gave up his meditation in order to marry Devahuti. So this desire, this attraction is extremely powerful. And we have to be very conscientious that we are also attracted to that desire. It's insurmountable for all of us. It's described, what is it? Trividam narakasya dudvaram naram I forget that verse. Anyway, it's described there that there are 3 gates to hell. Lust, right? Anger, greed. Yes. These things are the gates to hell. So we have to be very, very conscientious of that. Our lust, our desire for sense gratification. These things are a ticket to hell, more or less. We actually become overcome by these desires, and from that we'll have so many difficulties in the execution of our Krishna conscious life. So herein we see that if we are very sincere, if we actually take Krishna consciousness seriously, and we do everything according to sadhu, shastra, guru, if we do that, then we can become saved. We can actually become satisfied and happy in the execution of devotional service. Otherwise, it's a challenge. It becomes insurmountable. We see that that insurmountable factor is so powerful that even the great sages are suffering from that. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's described that this material world is dukkhalam ashashvatam. This material world is full of misery, and it's temporary. So here we're reading about the suffering of the living entities and how to get rid of that by looking at the smile of the Supreme Lord and looking at the eyebrows to get rid of that sense gratification desire. It's also described yagnartar kamano niyatra karma karma bandhana tad artam aham. Okay, I remember that verse. Tad artam karma kunteya mukta sangha param rajet. Thank you. It says that if we work down as a sacrifice Krishna, Vishnu, otherwise, if we don't do it, work binds us to this material world. That's really what's happening to all of us. If we don't serve Krishna, if we don't worship Krishna, then we actually become bound up in this material world. And any work done in the material world, whether it's good or bad, it has reactions. Good or bad, it's not good. So while performing devotional service, one is in a liberated state. So Krishna consciousness, devotional service, is something that's so important for our satisfaction, for us to become liberated. Vasudeva sarvam iti samahatma sudurlabha. That by the service of Vasudeva, Krishna, he's the cause of all causes. And if we are completely convinced of that, we can become somewhat happy, somewhat satisfied. So the spiritual master, he instructs us in the mission of Krishna consciousness. And that's why it's so important to know what the spiritual master wants. Every day we're chanting, Yasya prasadam, Bhagavat prasadam, Yasya prasadam nagatika topi. That if we please the spiritual master, if you make the spiritual master happy, then Krishna's pleased. And if you don't make the spiritual master happy, then Krishna's not pleased. So this is a very important instruction for us in order to get out of the clutches of this illusory energy, this maya. And also we see that if we become somewhat Krishna conscious, it's very helpful. I was just thinking that in this, we were reading a document, and in that document it says that one who truly understands the philosophy or the activities of Krishna consciousness in devotional service, it not only is the practice, but it's the actually understanding the siddhanta. It's very difficult to understand the siddhanta of Krishna consciousness without applying it into your practical life. If we don't do Krishna conscious activity, it's hard to understand the philosophy. They can't be separated. The philosophy and the activity have to be conjoined. They have to be together. So here in the temple, we have so many things that we do. If we think that Krishna conscious philosophy is fantastic and beautiful, but we don't execute, if we don't do that second part, the execution, we'll never really understand the philosophy. We'll never understand why, there's birth, death, old age, and disease. We'll never understand the principles of Krishna consciousness. So they work hand in hand. We have to be here in the temple. We have to do things to serve Krishna, to please Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual masters. And if we do that, then we can get rid of the suffering and the anxiety of the material world. Otherwise, it's practically speaking, it's impossible. So we have to have that understanding, and we have to have that activity of Krishna consciousness in order to become happy. So here we're reading how if we just take a look at the eyebrows of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it can relieve us of this desire for sense gratification. If we take a look at Krishna's smile, it can relieve us of the ocean of tears, like we've seen here, ocean of tears and people losing everything. And we should feel some compassion for these living entities. They're suffering like anything. And we need to develop a sincere attitude in trying to help these living entities, because Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya have given us an opportunity to see how we can move forward. Prahlad Maharaj prayed that he didn't want just liberation, but he wanted to stay and deliver all the conditioned souls in the material world. He wanted to give them an opportunity. So for us, that's also important. We should feel that we need to give people an opportunity, a platform where they can get out of this miserable, this suffering condition of human life. And by doing so, we please Krishna, we please Srila Prabhupada, we please the predecessor acharyas, and by that we can then begin to understand Krishna and Krishna consciousness and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. All right. Jai. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.